What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of the Young Guns podcast. Today, we're going to be talking about the Dallas Stars and how good they've been this season. We know that, with a new coach like Peter DeBoer coming in, there was a lot of questions. Can he get Jamie Benn and Tyler Seguin back into form? Because they've had a couple of other coaches beforehand that didn't get that opportunity to get the best out of the highest paid players on the team. And seeing Peter DeBoer as a coach for the Dallas Stars, we've seen a lot of positive things. Rick Bowness left during the offseason. He's the head coach of the Winnipeg Jets currently. So, it was interesting to see what he was capable of doing. But not only that, at the trade deadline, they add Evgeny Dandanov and they get rid of Guryanov, who was sent to the Montreal Canadiens. And it was a win-win deal for both. Dandanov seems to be very consistent with the Dallas Stars, and he's reunited with Peter DeBoer, which they were together during their time in Vegas, and they add Max Domi. They, in my opinion, barely gave up anything to acquire him. And looking at this team right now, they're very good. And their last 10 games, they've won 7 of the last 10 games, which is pretty impressive come, playoff time essentially. And they're on a roll. And I'm happy to see that the two players that they acquired on offense are essentially finding their place on the Dallas Stars roster.
Yeah, and like you said, Dadanov's come in. He's been really, really good for them. Has added some really good offensive help, especially with the likes of Mason Marchment and obviously Tyler Seguin being out with injury. It's good to see that Dadanov's coming in and kind of filling in that void. Max Domi as well has come in and filled in that void pretty well for Dallas as well. So they've had two guys, like you said, that have been acquired at the deadline that have come in and played well. But I look at this team and Rupe Hintz, Joe Pavelski, and obviously Jason Robertson is their main three, right? We all know how good they are, and how far Dallas is going to go is going to be determined on those three guys. But one guy that's been absolutely spectacular this season, and has gone actually under the radar is Jamie Benn. Jamie Benn currently this season has 29 goals, 36 assists for 65 points in 68 games, and he's looking like the Jamie Benn from 3-4 years ago, right? The guy that was consistent, the guy that was one of the best players in the league and was super consistent. He kind of fell off after he got some injuries. There was the president that called him out too at some point, saying that him and Tyler Seguin weren't performing up to standards. But since Peter DeBoer has come in, he's really turned Jamie Benn's season and career around. And at 33 years old, Jamie Benn is playing like an absolute monster. Also, Miro Heiskanen's having a fantastic season. 65 games played, 10 goals, 46 assists for 56 points. He's been great, and has been their best defenseman this season, which is always good, especially considering the fact that, they lost John Klingberg last year. He's filled that void nicely over there. Tyler Seguin's got 42 points. Obviously, he's out with injury, but, he's had a decent season this year. Obviously, not what is expected from Tyler Seguin in terms of points, but, obviously he's dealt with a lot of injuries. He hasn't really been the same player, but still 42 points, 65 games is about a 60-point pace, which is what you're looking for from Tyler Seguin. Anyways, then you obviously have some interesting depth guys as well. And one guy is currently on the second line in Wyatt Johnston. I like this guy. He's had a really good rookie season for Dallas. He was a draft pick for them a couple of years ago, and he's been really good for them. First round pick, 23rd overall by the Dallas Stars. And obviously, he's been super nice. So it's good to see Dallas and just kind of their depth being able to help them out. Obviously, Radek Faksa, who was in trade discussions, he's another one that's had a decent season on that fourth line. Has played really well. Nils Lundqvist, who they acquired at the beginning of the season, was really good. And Dallas have had decent depth. They've had opportunities, obviously from their big guys in Robertson, Hintz, and Pavelski, like I said. But they've had, scoring from everywhere. They have one, two, three, four, five, 6, 7, 8, 9 guys on their team that have scored 10 goals or more. And they have 2 guys, and they're going to get a third with Jamie Benn, that are going to have more than 30 goals, and Robertson will for sure hit 40 because he's at 39 right now. So that's been good, right? And then obviously the goaltending situation. They've played 3 goaltenders this season. Scott Wedgwood, Jake Ottinger, and obviously Matt Murray. No, not the Leafs one. There's a Matt Murray that plays for the Dallas affiliate team. And obviously we all know how good Jake Ottinger has been. 920 save percentage, 240 goals against average, 4 shutouts this season, 29 wins. He's the guy moving forward, and if he can play the way he played last year in the playoffs against Calgary. Dallas can go as far as he takes them. Scott Wedgwood, I mean, decent backup, 7 wins, 8 losses, 3 overtime losses. Not really the best numbers in terms of wins and losses, but 913 save percentage and 292 goals against average, which means it could be a situation where Scott Wedgwood is playing well, just his team doesn't play well in front of him. And then obviously, if you look at the decor just really quickly, um, obviously their top two is very interesting. Miro Heiskanen with Colin Miller, and then Esa Lindell with Yoni Hakanpa, and then obviously Ryan Suter with Joel Hanley. Nils Lundqvist currently, I believe, injured and not in the lineup, but even at that point, that's a good top six. And obviously, you've got a balanced top six. Esa Lindell, very good defensive defenseman. Ryan Suter as well. We all know how good he is playing a top six role. And Joel Hanley has had some really good season, a decent season under the circumstances. He's played 20 games this season, one assist in that time, but has really been a decent player for them defensively as well. So Dallas, all in all, just have a good core there. It's not elite. I wouldn't say it's an elite core, but it's a core that, they've played well together. It seems like a group that meshes well. They have good chemistry together. And obviously, they've got really good pieces. Like I said, Heiskanen, Robertson, and Ottinger, just to name a few, right? These are the guys that are going to be the difference makers for Dallas towards the end of the season, and obviously going into the playoffs, because we all know how good Dallas is going to be, and obviously who their opponents are going to be in the playoffs is yet to be determined as well.
Yeah, and yeah, there was a big coaching carousel that happened in the offseason, and Jim Montgomery, you see what he's done with the Boston Bruins, but Peter DeBoer with Dallas Stars has done a lot of great things. You mentioned, kickstarting, Jamie Benn and Seguin this season, but overall, very balanced team, and Dallas doesn't get a lot of credit, in my opinion. Goals for, seventh in the league.
Yeah.
Shots on goal, 10th. Their power play is 7th. Shooting percentage, 10th. Face off, best in the league. They have the best face off percentage. Defensive stats, goals allowed, 5th in the league. Shots on goal, on shots, shots, um, on net allowed. Oh, sorry, shots on goal. Oh my god. Yeah, 11th. My bad. Penalty kill numbers, 3rd in the league, and penalty minutes taken tied for 11th. Very balanced team, in my opinion. And I do believe that the Dallas Stars are one of the most surprising teams this season, along with the likes of the Winnipeg Jets and Seattle Kraken. But no one thought that the Dallas Stars would be leading in the Central. Everyone thought that it would be the Colorado Avalanche. And in this case, it's Dallas. And I do believe that they're going to be a lot better than what we saw in last year's playoffs. Jake Ottinger stole the show, forced 7 games against the Calgary Flames. This year, Dallas is not going to be the underdog. There's going to be higher expectations for them heading into the playoffs. And I do believe that they will finish first in the Central division. They've been first in the Central Division for majority of the season, and I would like to say that things are going to stay that way unless Colorado starts going off and maybe Dallas starts dropping some games. But in my opinion, look at that, like plus 51 in terms of goals scored.
Yeah.
Like it's just incredible what Peter DeBoer has done for the Dallas Stars. And they didn't have the craziest deadline, but getting Max Domi at the price that they did and getting Evgeny Dandanov at the price that they did, it was good work by their general manager to get that done heading into the playoffs. And Dandanov, wasn't really working out in Montreal. And once he gets to Dallas, the guy's basically a point per game player. He's been playing fantastic. He's had a couple games where he's had 2 points. And yeah, Garyanov is younger. There was higher potential, but it wasn't working out in Dallas. And he's doing exceptionally well with the Montreal Canadiens. So it's a very rare deal to see that both teams win. And
Well,
yeah,
it wasn't just that. And I think, like, look, to be honest, Dadonov's time in Montreal, I felt like he knew that he wasn't going to be there a long time, and I don't think he ever put in the effort that I think Habs fans wanted out of him, right, to necessarily live up to the expectations. I mean, listen, at the end of the day, Dadonov was traded to Dallas for Gurrianov in a trade where both guys essentially needed a change of scenery and just a fresh start, right? And obviously with Gurrianov, it didn't work out in Dallas, but Dadonov's been great, and I think that a lot of that has to do with the familiarity with Peter DeBoer. Obviously, they know each other. He's familiar with how good Dadonov is, and I think that Dadonov enjoyed that. And obviously, when you've got a player that's motivated, he's going to want to play better than what he is, right? And so, I think that that's a big plus for Dallas. And the other thing too is that, you know, Peter DeBoer's got a lot of criticism over the last couple of years, you know, especially his work in Vegas and before that in San Jose. But I think he's always been that kind of coach that I don't think he's ever gotten fully the respect. I've never really respected him as a coach. I thought he was overrated. But what he's done with this Dallas team moving forward and everything that he's built and just the way he's coached his team to play and the way he's gotten, you know, a lot of guys to overachieve and essentially play up to their potential has been great. And it's been great to watch. And Dallas is fun to watch too. They're not a boring team. They're a team that scores a lot of goals. They're a team that, you know, is very good offensively and very good defensively, and they're very well rounded, right? And you know, we talk about the juggernauts that are in the Western Conference, obviously Colorado, Vegas, just to name a few. The Oilers as well are in that conversation every now and then. But let's not hide the fact that Dallas has been fantastic and that Dallas is actually super underrated. I don't think a lot of people are talking about how good Dallas has been this season because they've really, really just gone under the radar in that sense.
Yeah, and just looking at Dandonov's stats with Dallas, 8 points in 9 games, 3 goals and 5 assists, and looking at Max Domi's points, 3 points in 6 games, 1 goal and 2 assists. So their newly acquired players are fitting in very nicely. And another guy that I would really like to talk about, and we've spoken about at one point throughout the season, who's having an MVP season, in my opinion, is Jason Robertson. This kid is fantastic. He's about to reach 40 goals. I think he could hit 50 if everything goes well until the end of the season. But what a story that he's been. And Rupe Hintz is one of the most underrated players in the league. A guy that doesn't get enough acknowledgement, and I think a lot of people should be talking about him a lot more. He kind of reminds me of a younger version of Nicholas Backstrom. I don't know if that's the best comparison, but in terms of like not being able to talk about him a lot, and just the fan base itself knows how valuable Hintz is, and just the same way that the Capitals fans know how valuable Backstrom was. Hintz is a very underrated player. And look, he's at 62 points, 32 goals, and 30 assists. And no one's talking about that. Joe Pavelski, at his age, still having a 61-point campaign, still doing fantastic. And, Miro Heiskanen steps up and becomes the number one defenseman with, John Klimberg leaving in the offseason. Tyler Seguin, sure, his contract's not the best, but 42 points in 65 games, that's better than the last couple of seasons that he played. Wyatt Johnson, for a rookie, 33 points in 68 games. Mason Marchment, newly acquired during the offseason, 31 points in 67 games. Like, this is a very well balanced team in terms of statistics, but also in terms of what they've accomplished in the standings. And this is a team that will not be regarded as underdogs, like I was alluding to before. They're going to be a team that a lot of people are going to keep an eye on the West. And I think they're one of the few teams that could beat the couple of juggernauts that are in the East as of right now.
Well, I think if the I pull up the standings again, I'm curious to see where if the season ended today, who would Dallas be playing in the first round? So Dallas has 87 points, Vegas has 90. So right now, Dallas would be playing Seattle in the first round, which, to be honest, is actually a very doable matchup for Dallas. They can absolutely win that series pretty comfortably. I'm not too big on Seattle. I don't think they're going to go far in the playoffs. I mean, they've been a great story this year, but I think Dallas, that's a very interesting matchup. But whether they play Seattle or Winnipeg, or if to some extent if Nashville ends up, somehow making the playoffs even after trading Ekholm, and selling off some guys. I mean, they've got pretty easy matchups. It's going to be tough unless they play, teams like Edmonton or Los Angeles. Then it might be a
Seeing
tougher situation.
seeing Dallas versus Nashville is basically seeing the battle of the Cowboys. At that point, we're gonna see a lot of country music being played
That's it.
during the intermission. But guys, we'd like to hear your thoughts on the Dallas Stars. What makes them so good? How far can they go in the playoffs? And what is the best story on the Dallas Stars roster this year? Is it Jamie Benn? Is it Tyler Seguin? Is it Dandanov? Jason Robertson? Or is it Peter DeBoer, their coach? We'd like to hear that in the comment section below. Make sure to like this video, subscribe to our channel if you haven't already, and we'll see you on the next episode of the Young Guns podcast. Thank you so much for watching, guys.